All right, welcome back. It's still Rapid on. Hope you had a great time on Sports with Ivale Drew by 8, and of course 8:30 Daisy and Michael for Eastern Circle. I did promise you that we're going to be having a great conversation this morning. I did promise you that we're going to be focusing on the NDLEA. And yes, as always, I always keep to my promise. And this morning, I do have my guest with me. He is Director of Media and Advocacy, NDLEA, in the person of Femi Babafemi. So good to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you, Cynthia. Good morning.
All right. Just to give you a brief, of course, we all know that the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency is a federal law enforcement agency in Nigeria under the Federal Ministry of Justice, charged with, very simple and straight to the point, eliminating the growing, processing and manufacturing, selling, and of course exporting, trafficking of hard drugs. This is just the cover of what the NDLEA is all about, even though there's a lot more, which of course he's going to be delving into. So some people say, oh, it's not the job of the NDLEA. He might list out some things and you just be amazed that, oh, it's actually part of their work as well. But let us start from the beginning, which is, let me first of all say, well done. The NDLEA has been doing so well. We've been seeing the news. We've been
thank you.
We've been following up the stories. But the first thing I want to ask is, can we have more?
More in the sense that you need us to do more than we're doing now at the moment.
Yes.
Of course, we'll continue to do that. That's why there has never been a dull moment in the agency with the revitalization of the agency in January 2021. It's always been one burst or the other. Don't forget, okay, let me contextualize our operations this way. The aspect you discussed in the introductory remarks has to do with our drug supply reduction leg of our work, which that's where you have the arrest, seizures, prosecution, and what have you. There is the other leg, which covers drug demand reduction. And that's another part that a lot of people may not understand our involvement in that area, and that has to do with sensitizing the public, raising awareness about the dangers of substance abuse and illicit drug trafficking, with the sole aim of achieving prevention, to prevent people from going into substance abuse. And for those that might have contact with illicit substances, that is, those that might have gone into abuse of this, again, the agency is also the first responder in providing support or psychosocial support services for them. Then we will provide treatment, rehabilitation, and then reintegration of these people back into their families, into their communities. So we have that two major planks of our operation. So that's that. And I'll tell you that there has, like I said, there has never been a dull moment in those areas. For instance, if I can recall vividly, I'll tell you that in the last 4 years, we've had more than 57,000 arrests. That is those involved in illicit drug trafficking. We've had more than 10,000 convictions. That's the area of prosecution. And again, on the other hand, we've had, against it in that light, we've had more than 10 million kilograms of assorted illicit substances seized. That's probably one of the highest anywhere in the world. Again, on the drug demand reduction, we've had more than 22,000 persons counseled and rehabilitated in our facilities across the country, because we have across the country more than about 30 counseling and treatment centers attached to our commands across the country. We'll be having additional 3 definitely this year, making 33, where the aim is to cover the 36 plus the FCT in the country. So that's that. So there's never been a dull moment, and that's why every week we try to take samples of some of our significant operations across the country, put them out in a statement to inform the people so that they can know what we're doing.
Okay, that's a great start we've had, which now brings me to, we do have a lot of interesting breaks that I want to touch on in different regions. In different states, Kano, Cross River, Jigawa, and the rest. But let us start with drug prevalence. You did mention that when you were having your introduction as well. Let us look at some of the numbers. The numbers are not very great when it comes to drug abuse. The numbers are not very good when it comes to drug addiction.
Yeah.
In fact, some figure has a report actually by United Nations Office on Drug Crime in Nigeria actually indicates that 14.4%, that is 14.3 million,
Yeah.
of people aged between the age of 15 to
And
64
64.
years abuse drugs. Now, if we now come up, we also have another one that talks about 5.6% among adult population as well. The numbers are not really great, which now leaves me wondering. The NDLA is trying, yes, we know, but it seems like the numbers keep rising.
No, no, that's. Let me take you back. Let me put it within context. What the statistics we are rolling out has to do with, and that was actually the beginning of the revitalization of the agency.
That's 2021.
Yeah, what we are rolling out has to do with the National Drug Use Survey conducted prior to 2018, but was published in 2018. That's conducted by our own National Bureau of Statistics with the support of UNODC, funded by the EU, that's European Union. And then that's actually the first time we'll have such a statistic that will give us paint a grim picture of the drug situation in Nigeria. You know, all along over the years, it's always been a guesswork. Okay, people, so number of people may be using drugs in Nigeria, or this may be the situation in Nigeria. But that survey actually gave us a very vivid imagination, a very vivid picture of what the drug use situation in Nigeria
But that was actually very nice and fair.
and that led
in 2022, there's another one that talks about 45.7%.
No, not a drug, not. I'll tell you. Let me land.
Okay.
Now that 2018 survey published in 2018 led that year to the setup of the Presidential Advisory Committee for the Elimination of Drug Abuse. That's PASIDA. Coincidentally, was headed by the current chairman and chief executive of the NDLA, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Mara. Then I remember vividly. And that committee developed a blueprint for this effort. And as God will have it, he was then in 2021 January appointed as the chairman chief executive of NDLA. And but then every year, the UN projects. For instance, one of the projections we're dealing with at the moment has to do with a projection that says that in for instance, you did mention about the prevalence rate 5.6 globally. That was the average globally. But that's the 2018 drug survey report published then. But in Nigeria, it was 14.4%, which is almost 3 times the global prevalence average. So that's grim enough. That's alarming enough. And then subsequently, I think 2021 or 2022 thereabout, the UN projected that in Africa there will be a rise of 40% by 2030, which we are approaching already. That 40% rise. Do you understand? So that should get everybody thinking and active and busy with this effort. Don't forget that this really is not about one single government agency. It's not even about the entire government itself. It's a collective thing, and that's why the NDLA is driving war against drug abuse, wider social advocacy initiative to mobilize all the citizens, all the stakeholders to buy in and take ownership of this effort, so that in our own different spheres of influence we can be involved in this effort, because that is starting from the home, the community, worship places, schools, workplaces, everywhere. When we all get involved, when we take it as personal things, so that we don't have to shift responsibility. Oh, it's NDLA's work. No, it's not just about NDLA work. NDLA is just a coordinating agency, providing leadership and support, and that's why we encourage everybody to come on board and get involved. And I believe that what your station is doing is part of that effort to sensitize and raise awareness, so that people can know that going into substance abuse and illicit drug trafficking has consequences, and so people have to be aware and then refrain from going into that.
Okay. Having spoken on that, I would just want us to clarify a couple of things. When it comes to the drug abuse statistics and numbers, who are we supposed to trust most? Because from the numbers I have with me, it's way, I mean, you did a production of 40% by 2030, but then according to the National Institute of Health, they did their own in 2022, where they talked about 45.7%, 1 in every 4 students abuse substance, despite an aggregate risk awareness level of 94.6%. Now, in 2021 as well, the SPH also did another one, which talked about 22.7% among adolescents of 25 years and younger. So when we look at all of these numbers, none of them is in about 14%. They are all above. We're not even gotten to 2030 yet. So
What in some of those surveys that you see,
yes,
they are not national as per the 2018 report. They are just localized. And if you see the 2018 drug use survey report, it covered 15 people within 15 and 64, that age bracket, which is large enough. Do you understand? And that doesn't mean that people under 15 are not abusing illicit substances. That doesn't mean we've had quite, I mean, our rehab facilities are filled up with people above and people below,
yes,
and people that fall within the same bracket. So it doesn't, so these are just, these are statistics that give you a guide. They may not be 100% accurate. Do you understand? As in, give you everything to the point. No, it's just to provide you a guide. But the 2018 drug use survey report has been the most widely accepted globally, not only nationally but globally, because that covers a wide range. And at the moment, I can tell you that there is another one in the offing. But what you have thereafter, or by some other bodies, they are just localized. The agency itself has been doing our own on the field. Do you understand? But they are not as universal as that of the, because it's actually something that it's very expensive to do, and that's why it really takes a lot of collaborative effort to be able to conduct national. That's why it's called National Drug Use Survey Report. So it's different from localized research reports and all of those things. They are different.
So is it that Nigeria doesn't have what it takes to, you know, say, okay, we want to really know exactly the statistics for ourselves? Okay, at the national level, let all these regions get their numbers and then put it together and see what we have. Why do we have to wait for the collaboration to come tell us, you know, about it?
That's exactly what we're saying. You see, there has to be a lot of there are a lot of parameters involved. Do you understand? And so, like, when I see the cost alone, it's honestly, it's not. So that's why I do know that it's not that the government doesn't support. Also, the government, you know, just like in any other field, I mean, nobody is an island. You just, I mean, we need to put our hands together so that we can wash our hands clean. And that's why, just like in any other country, government agencies usually seek for collaboration, support, and that has been the way globally, and that's how things do, I mean, work. And we're like I said, we've had made great progress in the effort to get another one, because the last one, it's over 6 years now, and actually it shouldn't be more than 5 years before we conduct another one to see, okay, with all the great efforts that the Ndlea has made in the last 4 years, where are we? Again, we also have to understand that there are quite a lot of factors that are responsible for these things, especially people going into substance abuse, like home, I mean, upbringing, parenting, peer pressure, social media, all of those things. So economic issues, socio-economic issues, have those parameters changed? So we have to, so those are all of the things that are considered in some of these things. So have they gotten worse? Do you understand? As compared to what we had during the others in the last survey. So all of those things will determine what will be the outcome, or will most likely determine what will be the outcome of another survey, because it's not just about, we know the NDLA is mopping up everywhere. Like I did say, we had more than 10 million kilograms of assorted illicit drugs seized in the last 4 years, which is huge. Quite a lot of partners abroad, anytime we mention that figure, they'll probably think we made a mistake, that you mean 10,000 kg. No, 10 million kg. So
Wow.
they will be wild. What? So that shows, because we do know that, the cartels, they are global in nature, so it's a global network, and they try to move things to Nigeria. From Nigeria, want to move it to Europe, to America, to other places, and they want to bring some for our population, for local consumption, and all of those things. So, but then those are the things we are mopping up. Like I did say somewhere yesterday, that just last year alone, we blocked over 200 million pills of tramadol from coming into Nigeria last year at the seaports. Just imagine what 200 million pills of tramadol. These are tramadol, 200 mg milligram. I mean, those are things that can harm people's health. It can have a lot of great consequences on public health, and as well as security challenges. So, and we blocked that. Just imagine if a fraction of that had been allowed into our community. So these are the things that we are doing that definitely will impact on our socio-economic and our socio-economic life and activities across the country.
Okay, despite what the agency is doing, right, we're still having these drugs come in, which now makes some of us want to ask. I mean, it's not enough that, okay, we appreciate it, but let us speak like an average Nigerian now. It's not enough that you're tracking down these drugs.
Yeah.
The one that happened in Victoria Island, the news broke out yesterday. The one in Jigawa and Kano and the rest of them. It's fantastic effort. But have the agency tried to, in your words, collaborate to see how we can stop this, or find out how these drugs are coming into the country? It's not enough to tell us that, oh, they have their network, it's a syndicate.
Yeah.
It's not enough to tell. We don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
We want to say, okay, we've discovered how this come in,
Absolutely.
and we blocked it.
Absolutely, Cynthia. I'll tell you. That's why I said this is not a one agency thing. I'll tell you how we work. At the national level here in Nigeria, we work with a lot of our stakeholders, like other security agencies, the military, NAFDAC,
Yes.
police, customs. Like we work with customs a lot at the seaports and at the airports, immigration, civil defense. We work with all the stakeholders, and we work with the people themselves, who more often than not, provide information. Do you understand? All of these we process together to generate our intelligence, and that's actionable intelligence which we act on. So that is that. But beyond the shores of Nigeria, because we already said that this thing is global, and so we have this. One of the things, for instance, I did tell you that we made a lot of seizures of tramadol, codeine last year, and these things, majority of them came from India. Fortunately for us, prior to that, we had gone into a memorandum. We had signed a memorandum of an understanding with our counterparts, that's Narcotics Bureau in India, to collaborate and work together. We work with other partners across the world, Border Force in the UK, National Crime Agency in the UK, international. Just yesterday, we had the director of the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement, Candace Spradley, visiting us in the office yesterday. We work with them. We work with the U.S., that's of the U.S. We work with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. You understand? We work with the French, we work with the Germans, we work with the, I mean, just recently again, some weeks ago, we signed an MOU with the narcotics control in Saudi Arabia. So we work with all of these, all of these institutions and partners across the world to be able to, we share intelligence, we conduct joint operations, like the cocaine, the largest cocaine seizure in the history of Nigeria, which was made in Lagos in 2022. We work closely with DA, USDA on that. You understand? So this is a global thing. And so we have to work with our partners across the world, and especially to identify where these things are coming from. We know where these things are coming from, and we are blocking them from the source. I mean, since last year, since recently, there was a BBC documentary, right? I'm sure you would have seen that. Yes. If you watch that BBC documentary, it acknowledged the fact that the people, the source, where these opioids were coming from in India, they acknowledge the fact that it's now pretty difficult to ship these opioids to Nigeria because the NDLA will seize them. Do you understand? And so that's enough to show you that indeed these people know that there is a very a ferocious effort on ground in Nigeria to block illicit substances from coming in here. And then what they devise is to try and ship to our neighboring countries and see how they can be smuggling them in one by one. Don't forget that the agency, I'll also tell you that our intelligence capability has actually been well strengthened. And so we're still able to be steps ahead of them and position all our tools across the various borders to ensure, and we'll be picking them as they try to smuggle them. It just did. I mean, in our statement last on Sunday, you see 3 Ghanaians, Ghanaian ladies trying to, bring in skunk into the country. So how are we able to? So we work. We try to track all of these things. We've seen situations where they try to bring in tramadol in the middle of the night. The vehicles arriving 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and we're able to track and get these things. So that you give it to us on that, because it's really takes a lot of effort. I know just the arrest itself is just probably the last layer of the effort. There have been a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of analysis, a lot of deployment of technological tools to be able to get to track all of these things.
Okay, you've spoken much. We're trying to manage our time so we can cover a lot of things. Okay, so this is the part where I want to ask about unscrupulous officers. Yeah. We've had a lot of Nigerians complain about the fact that, some officers, they are not as trustworthy when it comes to these drugs. These drugs they seize, they also keep some for themselves and then they resell. I mean,
yeah, okay.
You haven't heard that complaint before, because we've heard that complaint
well,
before.
You see, we always love to have,
And then those who also plant drugs in the cars of people.
No, Cynthia.
I mean, you've heard this story before
you see,
yourself.
there's a difference between speculation and the reality, and what actually, how do they plant? Okay, let me give you how the agency works. Like I told you, that the NDLA, the new NDLA, is 100% intelligence-led in all our operations. We don't just go out. We go out based on intelligence. Action, like I told you, I said the arrest decision is really the last layer of a lot of processes and a lot of effort. There might have been a lot of efforts, and the last approval comes from the chairman himself. She's the chairman, chief executive of the agency, who is on top of all the operations across the country.
Yes.
I can tell you that, because I know these things go on, messages, conversations, and I know for everything I have to, I get briefs on all of those things, so I know how all of these processes work. And I'll tell you that first, there are a lot of mechanisms put in place in the agency to ensure that if such had ever existed or happened in the past, to ensure that they never happened again and they will never happen again. And how do I mean? Now the agency has 2 great units. In fact, one, a food directorate. We have a food directorate of internal affairs and provost marshal office that handles disciplinary matters, investigate some of these things. Then we have another unit that is a special task force set up by this, that reports only to the chairman, that goes around all the commands across the country to ensure that there is full compliance with the SOPs, that's the standard operating procedures of the agency, to ensure that whatever it is seized, well documented, and our drug exhibit rooms, no single individual has access there. There are usually...
How about officers that work with the NDLA?
Yes.
Do they have access to these places?
officers that work with the NDLA.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. No single officer has access to that exhibit room. You have at least minimum of 3 padlocks in there, meaning that not a single person, no 2 people can say we want to access it. Like I do also.
So who has access to that place where the exhibits are kept?
There are usually 3 people. Usually the 3rd person is the commander, the overall head. Oga Patapata in that command.
Okay.
So it's very difficult for anybody to tamper with anything there. Don't also forget, I told you there is a special task force that goes around all the commands from time to time to ensure that what is in the books is physically in the exhibit room. So
okay, could it be that there are some unscrupulous people in the command? Because now but you might not want to accept this, but
no, I'll tell you if
in the news that even in 2025, 2021, go back time.
Yeah.
We've had people that, you know, complain that, oh, drug was planted in my car, drug planted in my pocket. Now, how did these officers get these drugs that was planted in the pockets and cars of this young man?
Cynthia, that's what I'm saying. Don't mistake skits or speculations for reality.
In fact, I can show you one here. This was in 2021. A report on a credible paper like Punch, saying that military officer plants drug in brother's house, reports to NDLEA.
You said military officer plants
drugs. So how did they get hold?
You didn't say MDLA. You see, you mix it up yourself. You say we are talking about NDLA. You
how
talk about
did these people get the drugs?
Who?
The people who are getting the drugs, the officers.
The drugs on the streets, how did they get to the streets?
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. You see,
what if they have friends in NDLE who are giving them this drugs?
No, don't be the devil's advocate.
I'm just asking.
I'm telling you indeed. Let's face reality. I'm telling you, Cynthia, that the new NDLA saw things are extremely difficult. There is no way, because I mean, there are consequences. And don't also forget that the agency has also been transformed in a way that the officers and men are well taken care of. They are exposed to trainings across the world. You know, I've mentioned countries for you where we partner with. So these are, I mean, you wouldn't want to be exposed to those levels of opportunities and you want to mess up your career. No, nobody does that. Nobody, his or her right senses will do that. And I can tell you, if you know who the chairman chief executive of the agency is, I mean, somebody that has made his mark across every sector where he has where God has placed him in the country. So he's very much on top of his job, and I can tell you, if indeed there are such cases, I will admit, I will admit, and I'll tell you, we have dealt with them. I'm not saying we are a community of saints. No, we are a human community, and in human community there might be 1 or 2 misdemeanor, but then they are dealt with according to the law in a way that I mean, they will serve as deterrent to others. Nobody, you would want to see that happen to your colleague and you want to go near them. So that's exactly what I'm saying. There are a lot of mechanisms, checks in place to ensure that we don't have such things. And I can tell you, if anybody has an evidence of that, bring it to us. We'll deal with it accordingly.
Okay. I know there's something that somebody wants to know before we wrap up this morning.
Okay.
What happens to these drugs that have been seized?
Oh, awesome question. I'll tell you, I mean, you would have also seen in your own report that these drugs are usually gathered periodically and publicly destroyed. Yeah, the last one we did was in Lagos, where we had more than 1.5 million kilograms of these drugs. This 1.5 million kilograms, not more drugs. So, and they were done publicly with the Americans, the British present there. Not only that, with our local people, journalists, traditional rulers, religious leaders, government agencies, other security agencies, all of them physically. And these are usually done after we have gotten a court order for such exercise to be conducted. I will take them to outskirts where the impact on the environment is very minimal, and conduct the exercise there in the public view of everybody. It's usually covered by the media. And quite a lot of that have been done across the country. So they are destroyed publicly because they are not of any value to anybody.
You mentioned court order. Why is a court order needed?
Yes, that's the law.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So for a person who is wondering, oh, why do you need a court order to do your job?
It's the law.
That's
the law. Yeah.
It's what the law stipulates. And so if the law has said keep the drugs, are we going to keep the drugs?
No, the law that is already in the act. So because for every case we wait till the case is concluded in the even when the case is concluded in the court, that's the court. I mean, the judgment has been passed. The suspect involved is convicted and sent to jail. Even at that, we still need to go back to the court. Okay, for this case that had been concluded, we need an order of the court to dispose of, to destroy the drugs seized from that particular convict. So usually that's to just protect the integrity of the process. Do you understand? Yes.
Okay. As we get to wrap up, I have one last question for you, sir. Do you think that the NDLA need to be more transparent in its dealings? Especially the fact that a lot of times people get to ask, I've had people ask these questions like, oh, these people who are being arrested with drugs, where are they really in jail?
Of course.
So,
okay, maybe somebody.
When you see Nigerians start asking this type of questions, that means they feel that something is not, maybe the case just swept under. And
No. As far, I just told you now that in the last 4 years alone, we've had more than 10,000 convictions. They are not. They are human beings with families. I mean, if perhaps, if somebody in if a suspect in somebody's family is thrown into jail, he will know now. He won't say.
So you mean if we decide to go to investigate this now, we will find these people?
There is nobody that, except the person is on court bail. There are some cases where individuals or suspects who are still undergoing trial may be on court bail. That is, at that point, when they leave, when we charge them to court, then we follow up because we usually have 80 to 90% conviction rate. That's why I tell you, because we arrest people with the exhibit. It's not go and come back. No, it's not as if we are looking for evidence to prosecute. That's why you usually see our cases 2-3 counts. Do you understand? Because we catch you right with the evidence. I mean, with the exhibit there. So, and I'll tell you that for all of these figures that we wrote out, check out, with the exception of those that had served out their jail term, there are quite a lot of prominent cases. The individuals are right in Kuje here. I mean, I don't have to mention names.
Of course, of
yeah,
course,
okay,
of course.
So
there's something that concerns a lot of people, which is in the creative industry. I'm sure you must have seen that a lot of times in our movies, in our
that's
skits,
glorifying or promoting substance abuse.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is the NDLA doing about that? Because this tends to influence people.
Absolutely. We're talking about some of the factors that motivate or push people into substance abuse. That's one of it. That's the behavior or the activities of some of social media influencers or role models that are celebrities, what they do. And I'll tell you that has been a major concern to the agency itself, even though we don't have the power to just take anybody, turn people to jail. And so what do we do in that regard? We have to work with other stakeholders. There are other government agencies that are responsible for moderating some of these things coming to social media and some of those things, especially an agency like the Films and Video Censors Board. And we're glad that they are up and doing in that regard. They are, we've seen quite some of their statements and actions recently in that regard. But at our level, even though we don't have the power to go and arrest somebody because we saw you promoting something in your video, because we don't have, just video. Our own case, we need raw. So what we do in that case is, we've seen, not that again, we've seen some of these people that we've actually had to arrest. Just recently, one a major figure in the Nollywood industry was arrested and sentenced. He's serving his jail term. We have some others in the past who were arrested and all of those things and convicted. So we deploy the stick and the carrot approach in this regard. So what we do is we work with some of them individually to let them know the dangers or the consequences of what they do. And we're glad that, again, there are quite a number of people, prominent figures, coming up within those industries to also talk against substance abuse. Do you understand? Why not everybody is on that page, but then for those that are still doing that, they know that the NDLA is watching, and we're looking for every space to either convince them, to either preach to them, or we will the big stick when we have concrete evidence to nail them, to put them, take them before the court, and that's exactly what we've been doing. So, and that's regard, we work with the leadership of the Actors Guild AGN. We work with the leadership of that group. Again, the Performing Musicians Association of Nigeria, we've had meetings with them, we've had engagements with them, we work with them in that regard. And apart from these, I mean, getting the various associations to work with them individually, even within the agency, we also have something like celebrities, drug-free celebrities club, where we encourage people of like minds within those sectors to come in and create some level of influence on their colleagues. So we deploy those strategies to ensure that we have engagements with them, and when we need to win the big stick, when we have the evidence to nail somebody, we go after them, just to send a message that you are not untouchable.
All right, thank you so much for bringing clarity to the conversation. Ndlea In Focus, and once again, good work Ndlea is doing.
Thank you,
and we
Cynthia.
hope for more.
By God's grace.
We hope for more, so that our people can be safe. We are getting into the month of May, and of course, there's going to be lots of conversations when it comes to drug abuse in the month of May. Don't forget that it is this same month of May that we have the International Boys Day. Of course, you know, people want to talk about boys and drugs, and so yeah, there'll be lots of conversation regarding.
And June is the International Day against illicit drugs.
Illicit drugs.
That's the World Drug Day.
It's
back to back.
Yeah. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Femi Babafemi, Director of Media and Advocacy, Ndlea. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Always my pleasure.
We do hope that when we send you those pictures of those officers that we suspect, hope you would act on it.
Suspect and send them with evidence.
Of course, now.
Well, I can tell you swiftly.
Okay.
Please, swiftly, we act on those things.
Is there any whistleblower allowance? You know, Nigerians, we like allowance. Is there any whistleblower allowance?
I don't want to say that on there.
All right, we'll go on a very short break. When I come back, Rapid Dot is coming to a close.